has won division and got up to district level as well. He is very experienced in corporate clubs. And hang on a minute, jeepers, you're going to get kind of a replay of that, because guess who forgot to start recording? This is why Kayleen has a Zoom team normally.
It's okay. I just started recording. Don't worry about it. I've got it.
Hit record? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. I don't know how much of that, so we'll start again. So welcome to the Meaningful Marketing session today that's being presented by Karl Hughes, Distinguished Toastmaster from District 73. Karl is the District 73 Director and has been in Toastmasters since October 2015. He has competed in club contests, and I know he's got up to district in some of those contests as well. He has a lot of experience with corporate clubs, supporting them, forming them, and also running speechcraft courses for a number of organizations. He's passionate about Toastmasters and he loves chocolate. So that's what you know. If you want to get him on the good side, go for chocolate. Today, Karl is going to talk to us about meaningful marketing. Oops, I'll just go back to this before we do that. We are recording the session. We eventually got that right. This is just to let you know about the recording. If you do not want to be recorded, you may want to choose to leave the session and watch the recording later. You could keep your videos off and not verbally interact if you don't want to be seen on the recording. But the recording will be for Toastmasters purpose. So how to attract more members to your club with meaningful marketing. This is a session that I saw a 30-minute version of a year and a half ago, and it was really interesting for Toastmasters, but also if you've got a business or anything outside where you want to know how to connect with people, this session is going to help you with that. I would now like to hand over to Karl. I will stop sharing and let Karl lead this session. Over to you, Karl.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you for that, Kayleen. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. Welcome to this session. Now, I've got a couple of screens open in front of me, so you're going to see me looking everywhere, including the camera, hopefully, while we get used to these online meetings. So be aware, my eyes are going to be everywhere. Now, I'm also going to be doing some screen sharing a bit later, and I won't be able to see everybody on screen. So please, if there's any questions or any interactive bits, call out. It's fine. I know there's around about 85 of us online, but that's fine. Just call out because I might not be able to see any hand signals or hands up. Now, the purpose of this workshop, if you like, I'll call it a workshop today, is to look at how to attract people to your clubs so that you can convert them into members. And it's all about making sure that your marketing is meaningful. So important. Now, the outcomes that I hope you have at the end of this session is that you will understand what meaningful marketing is. Very important concept. Secondly, that you will have a good understanding of the power of segmentation. You have all been segmented at some stage, and you probably are right now. And we'll talk about that in a little while. I'm also going to cover how to humanize your marketing. So at the end of this session, again, an outcome should be you have a grasp on how to humanize your marketing. And then finally, some barriers to looking at and deploying meaningful marketing. What is stopping people and clubs from doing meaningful marketing? Now, as I mentioned, there's going to be a little bit of interactivity where I'm going to ask questions. I'll be doing a presentation with a slide share. We don't have enough time to go into breakout rooms. Love to do that for longer sessions, but we won't have time to do that today. And I'll also give you some tools that you can use to go away. I'm always a big one when I do a workshop or a session that rather than just doing the theory, that there are some tools that you can go away to use to help you to take action and implement on some of the things that I'm talking about. Okay, so let's get started. Let's kick it off. So my question to you is, who struggles with marketing at their club? Just put your hand up if you are struggling with marketing. Yeah, marketing is not an easy thing to do. That's why they have paid professionals that get paid a heck of a lot of money in organizations and companies and businesses to market effectively, efficiently, so that they're not spending too much money, but also effective, that the reach is as far as they can and they are connecting with as many people as they possibly can to generate lots of income for their companies or businesses. So it is a very important role in today's modern business environment. And Toastmasters is a global organization, just like many other global organizations. And because of that, it needs to market itself. But so do the individual clubs, because the clubs are like a little business in themselves. We have a president, we have vice presidents, we have a treasurer, and we need to market to our community to bring people into our clubs to benefit from our services. So to do that, the bridge is marketing. But what actually happens with marketing often, particularly within Toastmasters at club level, is it's not particularly effective. In fact, I have had conversations with, unfortunately, more than one person where they've come up to me during an event we might have had during a break, and they've said, Karl, can I just have a word to you? And I said, sure. And they said, look, we have trouble getting people into our clubs. We just don't have any guests turning up. And I think, oh, okay, so there's something wrong with their marketing there. So I asked them, well, okay, where are you marketing? Let's try and understand where you're marketing, because it mightn't actually be effective, what you're doing. And there's a pause, and they look at me and say, well, we're not actually promoting anywhere. And I go, aha, okay, I have a solution to that problem. If you are not promoting and marketing, you're not going to get people coming through the door. That is pure luck that they've stumbled across you. You need to be able to market. So the rule number one is, if you want people coming through your door, you have to market, you have to promote. So that's rule number one. Rule number two then is, how can you make that marketing as effective as possible? So let's drill down into that. Now, I have a question for you, and you can put your hand up here. We'll do a quick flash survey. Who here likes to watch movies? Who likes to watch? Yeah, most of us like to watch movies, good movies. So keep your hand up if you like movies. Keep your hand up if you like action movies. You like action, plenty of explosions and car chases. Okay, we seem to still have some hands up, which is good. What about rom-coms, romantic movies? Who likes them? We've got some hands up. We've got some hands coming down now. Okay. All right, what about musicals? We've all got to love musicals. We've all got to like a bit of Hugh Jackman singing his lungs out, haven't we? Or is it just because Hugh Jackman's a good-looking guy, that's why you like to be watching those musicals? Okay, so we've got some hands up, but not many there. Okay, let's go a little bit more hardcore here. What about horror movies? What about all those? Oh, I can see there 2 hands going up with D87. Well done. So lots of gore and blood and guts and those jump scares where it goes all quiet and suddenly, bang, something jumps up. Who loves them? All right, we've got about 3 people put their hands up for that. Okay. Well, I hope you're seeing now, and you're coming to the same conclusion I am, that, well, we all like films, we all like movies, but we have differences in the types of movies that we are watching. So we are not all the same when it comes to watching movies. Some like the Hugh Jackmans, some like the action, some like the rom-coms, and some like the horror. Now, if I was talking to perhaps a younger teenage group here, you might get a lot of people putting their hands up for those horror movies because they just love those jump scares and going out on dates for those sort of movies. But the message here is that we're not all the same when it comes to our needs. Now, let me start to share my screen. And we'll get into this presentation. So someone's got fantasy up here. Yeah, so there you go. Someone likes the Lord of the Rings type movies. Now, can everybody see that? Kayleen, have you got that? It's coming up?
Yes, sure.
Fabulous. So we have just gone to the movies and we have realized that not everybody likes the same movies, and yet they're movies. A movie is a movie, right? No, it's not. So are all people the same? No, they're definitely not. People are different. So if I was to advertise just generally for a movie, that's not going to get me much reaction because people will see that straight away, that perhaps it's a horror movie, and they're going to turn off from that right away. And I may even be pushing that horror movie, promoting that horror movie on the wrong people. Because for those Hugh Jackman fans and the rom-coms, etc., I'm pushing this blood and gore. They're going to go, oh, not interested, go away. They probably aren't even going to answer me or any emails or any conversations I try to have with them. It's just going to be a black hole, not interested. So now let's look at that for a market. So a market is a population. We're talking about a general market here. So it's a population of people. Just like we said with the films, it's a whole lot of people like films. But what we can do is start to look at that particular general market and break it down. So for instance, if I was to look at all this, massive faces here, these icons on the screen, I could start to look at them and say, okay, if I circle these people here, these are high income professionals. Now I've started to distinguish this group of people compared to another group of people, which I'll now show you. Low income international students. Now they could be high income international students, which would be a subset again, but I'm going to talk about low income. So the students that come over here to study, and they don't necessarily have a great deal of money, as probably most students are in that situation. Now you can see they are two different polar opposites to the high income professionals. In many ways, it might be their age, it might be their dress sense, it might be their goals, it might be their life experience. There's a whole lot of things that will differentiate these two groups. So if I was talking to one group compared to another, if I wanted to connect with them, I would be using a different mindset from one from the other. So for instance, if I had a product that I was trying to sell with the high income professionals, for them, money's probably not going to be an object. So that's not going to come into the equation. If I am able to show these high income professionals the benefits of what I am selling here, then they are going to take that on board and probably buy, particularly if they're high income professionals that have a very strong focus towards their career, and this service, product, whatever it is I am trying to sell them is going to help them in their career, then as we actually do know in the marketplace today, professionals will pay a big price to get products and services to help them advance up the career ladder. Now, if I was to have that same conversation with low income international students, it wouldn't work. they would instantly be turned off, not interested. As soon as I even talked about price, they just would, I'm out of this game. I've got to fold my cards because I can't be part of this. So there's two different conversations that we will have around that, even though it may end up being the same product. So this is, very quickly, this is a member cycle that a member goes through over the lifetime that they use Toastmasters International. It's similar, it's a generic model that is used for any product or service. They tend to go through a growth period and then a decline. Now, this is all different presentations, so, and a longer presentation than what we're doing today. I've just put this in because I want you to realize that what we are looking at here is the discoverers. So that very first column there, where we've got them as a guest before we convert, that is the part of this graph that we're looking at. When I look at this meaningful marketing, it will also impact the other segments, but today we are concentrating just on that first segment there, okay? So my question to you is, and please shout out, how do we eat a really big cake? And Kayleen, it is a chocolate cake because chocolate is my favorite, okay? How do we eat a really big cake, everyone?
One bite at a time.
Oh, round of applause, one bite at a time. And if it's my case, a big bite, so a big slice of cake. Absolutely. So what we want to do, as I've just done with that little graphic with those low-income students and the high-income professionals, is I've divided a large group into segments. Now, we can do that in many ways. We can do it by geography, where they're actually placed. Now, the internet has broken down barriers, as we know. We can sell things to the other side of the world these days. And it's so true in Toastmasters, where we've actually had, with our online and hybrid meetings, people joining from other countries, other states, other countries into our clubs. But we can also be selling things in a local market or a global market. Demographic, the gender of the people involved, the age, their cultural background, all these sort of things can come into play for the demographic segmentation. Then psychographic is basically the way people think, the psychology. What are they thinking? And again, different people have different mental models that you can start to put into groups. I mean, I know some people don't like this labeling, but unfortunately, it is a fact that there are groups that do think alike. And the behavioral is obvious. It's how people act. What are their behaviors? Now, you, as I mentioned at the beginning, have been through a segmentation at some stage and probably are being segmented at this very moment. If you are a member of an internet provider, you're a customer of them, or a communications, Optus, Telstra, whatever it may be in your country, you have been segmented. Here in Australia, we have Telstra. I've seen the segmentation that they did at one stage. Working in a business, I was privy to some of the work that they did there, and they were doing something I'm going to show you it shortly on how they segmented their customers for the products and services that they were selling. And often when you are ringing up one of these help desks and you get those questions where they try to upsell you or cross-sell you to something, they will have a profile on their computer for you. They may even realize some of the things you're saying in the questions, what the segmentation is. They will start to sell you products and services or try to get you engaged with products and services based on your segmentation. So there's a lot goes on when someone is having a simple conversation with you on the other side of the telephone. And it's always a good thing to know when you're having that done to you, because then you're a little bit more aware of what's going on and you don't go around signing on dotted lines very quickly, because it's very powerful when you use these segmentation techniques at the very high corporate level. They're really good at doing this. So we want to connect with potential members in a meaningful way. And this is what they tend to do with businesses these days, particularly entrepreneurs that might have a home-based business or smaller type businesses. They say to find your niche. Find your niche and serve it to the max. So don't try to do everybody. Try to just serve to your niche. And this is what we are talking about here, because what often happens with our marketing, even on our clubs in Toastmasters, is we use the scattergun approach. We basically shoot all these pellets everywhere and hope that something is going to hit. What we want to do now is be a lot more intelligent about it, and we want to be a bit more like a sniper. We want to really hone in on who we are trying to market to and who we want into our clubs. So let's continue. Now, this is the power of segmentation. If you are trying to engage with a group of people that are looking for exactly what you are trying to promote to them, the odds of you then converting that person over to your mission, if you're a not-for-profit, or sales, if you're a profit type of organization, is highly likely. The odds are very high compared to just doing that general scattergun approach, which means then that when you are doing that marketing, it's more efficient and it's more effective. So the power of segmentation should not be underestimated here. But there's some work that needs to be done to understand your segmentation, because segmentation is different. There's many ways to cut that cake. And each business, each organization will have a different way of cutting that cake. And at a particular time, it may even be a different cut then. So I'd be suggesting to you that what's happening now in the world, your segmentation will be a little bit different than what it might have been 5 years ago. And certainly the internet has completely changed the way you would look at segmentation. Now, what I've got here is a template to help you do segmentation for your market. So we've got a general market out of there of people who want to join an organization that's going to help them with public speaking. Let's put it that way. What we've got is a situation of those discoverers. So somebody has woken up one day, they've gone to work, and maybe they've said, okay, we need you to do this presentation. And you've gone, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Maybe it's someone who's retired, who wants to go out and socialize more. Someone at some time has had a bell go off, say, I have an issue or a problem here. And they realize I need to solve it. So there's awareness of a problem, and then they're looking for a solution. They're looking to discover something that is going to address that problem or need they have. In a lot of cases, they are going to look at Toastmasters. They may have heard about it word of mouth, or they may have got that through the internet, doing some searching on the internet. So they've become aware of a problem, and now they have discovered Toastmasters, and they are coming to us. They are coming to a club near you. Now, that's one way where it is proactive on their part. The other way is being proactive on a club's part, where you go out to the market to draw people in. Both of those will be able to be more helpful to you in that conversation and higher odds of converting to a member if you use segmentation. So this template will help you do that. So the first thing that people tend to do around segmentation is call the segment a name. And I'm going to give you some examples after this. I'm only going to go through this in a general way, and then you'll see how it actually works. So what's the segment name? So you can differentiate when you're talking about these different segments, and a slight definition, just a short definition around what that is. Then underneath that, what in their own words do they want? Now, this is an important part. It's not what you think they want, it is what they want. So you need to put the hat on of that segment, those people. So you have to do a little bit of research on this. You may already have some of these people in your club. So you want to be talking to them to find out what they want. And you also need to be listening closely to the words and phrases that they use. And we'll come back to that in a moment. So then we start to look at the traits. What aspect does this group tend to have? So tend to have. Not everyone might necessarily have it. It's not cookie cutter and every single person is like this, but they tend to have this in general. So here traits, I'm making this very general for our particular needs here. So how do they think? What do they need? What are perhaps the behaviors that they exhibit here? So what are the general traits of this group that makes them unique to this segment? And then their primary needs. And this is essential. If you don't know this, this is why you are not converting guests into members. What are they after? What are their goals or desires? And why do they want to join a club? You should be asking in your head what those three answers to those three questions are. And in fact, you should actually be asking every guest that comes through the door these questions, and we'll get to that a bit later. So what are the primary needs? Then what are the words used? What words do they use when they talk about these things? Because I can tell you now, those students will be using a totally different type of language set compared to professionals. And depending on who you have in your club or who you want to attract to your club, you need to be matching those words up. Very, very important. So what words or phrases does this specific group use? The other thing then is what I call secondary clients. You have your primary client, which is the person who's going to join the club, but there's also a secondary client. Now, let me give you an example. A secondary client in a corporate is the corporation itself, often represented by the manager or somebody high up. So for instance, when I go in to do a speechcraft course, I've talked to national marketing managers, national HR managers, even board members and managing directors because they've been interested. Now they're a secondary client. They're like a gatekeeper. I need to get through these people to get to the team members, the employees who are actually going to be joining this club or forming this corporate club. So they're the primary client, but we then have this secondary client that we also need to make sure that we can deliver their needs. In the case of students, it would be the educational institution, usually represented by the teacher in some way or the tutor. And even individuals, if someone comes through to the club, it may be their wife or their husband or their family, that it may be that we don't want to be taking up too much of their time to take them away from that. So we always have to be aware that, yes, there's a primary client, but behind that, there could be, and often is, a secondary client that we always need to satisfy as well. And then finally, the product match. So Toastmasters is an organization that people pay a fee for to get learnings. And from that learning, it's done through products and services that we provide. So what does the club offer this particular market segment? And what does TI offer them? So there might be a range of things, and there may be things across that range that applies to all of them. But there will be certain things that will stand out. And you'll see this in a moment as we go through segments that will stand out more than other things. And that's what you need to make sure that you are having as a priority in the conversations with these people. Okay, Does that make sense to everybody? Can I have a nod of the head or a hand go up? Is that all making sense?
Carl, did you
Excellent.
want questions? Sorry, Carl, did you want questions throughout the session, or are you going to wait for the end?
I might wait for the end just to make sure we get through everything, Kayleen, but thank you for asking.
I'll keep track of them then.
Yes, because I'm just keeping my eye on the time here. I want to make sure I get through everything here. Because segmentation, we can talk all day about this, and I'm just trying to do the main fundamentals here. So how do we cut the cake? Now, at my home club, this is how we cut the cake a couple of years ago. We have social seekers that come to our club. Now, notice these segments have been named. Compared to students, social seekers and students are two different groups. Obviously, you can see straight away by the name. Now, corporations and big organizations, they usually have fancy names for some of these segments. I'm keeping it fairly standard for what we're dealing with here. Professionals. We have professionals that come to our club. Language improvers. Our club over the years, for the 5.5 years that I've been with my club, I've seen the demographics change. It is so diverse now, culturally diverse, than even 5 years ago. So we need to make sure now that we're cutting our cake to include this group of people. And then long-termers, not so much for prison, although you could put it that way, but people who have been in Toastmasters for a long time, veterans, very, very experienced. So that's how we've cut our cake 5. Now, when you're doing segmentation, you don't want 15, you don't want 10. You want to try to keep it as minimal as possible with the segments. Otherwise, it gets too unwieldy. There's too much to be dealing with. So let's look at social seekers. So here's an example here where we know at our club that people come for the social element. They enjoy the speeches, but it's the interaction that they really enjoy. So these people are seeking that social interaction through Toastmasters. The words they say are, and this is just a general statement, people may say different things, just compile it into one succinct statement. I want to be part of an interesting group with great people. Now, their traits here, they tend to be mature aged with time to spare. They mightn't be tech savvy. Now, some people in this age group are, but many aren't. They want to share their experience and stories. These people have been around a long time. They have a lot of life experience, and they want to be able to share it now. Now, if you're thinking there, what does that tell you about sharing experience that you'll see down the bottom of this? You should already be starting to think of, well, how would that fit in my club, and what products and services do we do at the club that would fit this person? Enjoys and engages with the social aspects. Now, does a club, for instance, have a break, a food break where people mingle? Is there social events that go on? So again, matching what the club does. Primary needs. They may come for a specific event and then stay on. They have a primary need around wanting a positive environment, maybe to make new friends and socialize. They feel like they want to belong to something and they want to feel valued. Now, again, bells should be going off in your head. They want to feel valued, long-term member, retention of members. Okay, start thinking about these things in the way how this group of people would interact in the most optimized way with your club. So what would they say? They say, I want to be with great, friendly people. I love the interesting stories and speeches I hear when I come to a meeting. It gives me something to do and to focus on because I have a lot of spare time. Now, the secondary clients here are partner, family, relatives, and friends. They may be a widower, for instance, so it might be relatives or friends here that's a secondary client. So the product match here for the club is being friendly and fun in the meetings. That's what they're coming for. They're interested in community clubs, not corporate clubs. Now, pathways may be a challenge, may not, but it may be a challenge to social seekers coming through into the clubs. But what they would really enjoy once they start to understand what Toastmasters is about is the mentor and the coaching program, because they have a lot of experience. They want to be helping people. So if I was talking to these people, or if this group of people, or if I was marketing, I'd start to mention some of these things, because they are magnets. They're attractions to your club. Here's students. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but here's students. They tend to be younger people, highly tech savvy, completely different to the last group, and often looking for quick skill building. They may not necessarily be long-termers. We have to realize that some people are coming to our clubs, will be there a long time, and some won't. They'll get some basic knowledge and skills under their belt, and they're gone. They've got other things to do. So I'm not going to go through all this, but I just wanted to show you the aspect for students here. Then we've got the professionals that I mentioned. Now, professionals, unlike the social seekers and perhaps students, they have high expectations because they're used to it in a work environment and the training that they get there, that the clubs are professional. Now, it doesn't have to mean that everybody's wearing suit and ties, but it does mean that you've got your act together, that the meetings are well run. It still needs to be social and friendly to people, that's a given, but also that they're going to get these learnings, because they pay thousands of dollars, organizations, to train professionals up at the highest level, and they have very high expectations of that learning. If they come to Toastmasters, they're going to give you a little bit of leeway, but at the same time, they're going to expect results and it done well. So that's a different conversation that you would have compared to, again, a social seeker. And often they may obviously be married. They may be younger professionals, in which case they've got a family as well. Need to balance their time. Are they going to be able to step up to be a club executive at some stage? Maybe not. So again, I'm going to keep moving. Language improvers. Here they're looking at building confidence in themselves, fitting in with the local community, maybe emotional support, and it could even be to get a job to help with their interview skills. Moving on again, and the long-termers here. Loves Toastmasters, wants to give back to the club and want to motivate others to do their best. And here are some of the secondary clients that we can use. Understanding that when we're dealing with professionals, sometimes they're even paid for by the corporation. Then in that case, we need to make sure that the corporation is happy with paying for that. We had 3 people come from a company once, and their manager came along with them. There was 4 of them there to check out the meeting because the money was coming out of his budget, and he wanted to make sure that it was okay. So we needed to have that conversation with him, as well as the 3 people who will be joining up, to make sure that he was going to be happy with where he was spending his money. Different conversation than a student, but same products and services that we're offering. And educators and the family connection. So they're 3 secondary clients. There may be more, but that's 3 that we looked at our club. Now, Toastmasters has also done some personas. This profiling, this segmentation, they can also be called personas, where you build a persona up to represent that particular market segment. And these are 7 that they've used. Now, this has come out since, I think it's fairly recent, that's come out since we did our segmentation at our club. When I look at this, I seem to see that it's very highly corporate related. There's a lot of corporate things in there, which doesn't necessarily suit the club that I'm involved with at the moment, being a corporate club. We have professionals, but we also have other people who are non-professionals. But you might want to go on to TI and have a look at their segmentation that they've done here to see if it's useful for you. Okay, humanizing marketing. Let's get on to that. So we understand now that there's not all people the same, that we can bundle them, if you like, into different segments of like-mindedness or similar traits in some way, which means when we talk to that group, we can really target on their particular needs and the way they want to interact compared to another one. Here is something that we do as a club. So we work with our local newspaper, and we have with a partnership with another club and a partnership with the newspaper, we have an article in every issue that comes out. And what we do here is the other club does it for one article, we do it for the next. So we alternate in that way. And what we found out very, very quickly is it's not as effective. In fact, people will just flick or swipe to the next page. If you talk about Toastmasters is really good, you can come here and you can get confidence and you can learn how to speak, and there's leadership and we do table topics, and gee, it's really good. Next, not interested. And we sat down and had a chat to the editor of this newspaper to understand his readership and his segmentation, because guess what? They do segmentation as well. And what the upshot is that you need to humanize it. You need to make it around personal stories. So what do you notice here? There's a picture of someone. It's not just a logo or a blank page of text. It is a picture of someone. Now, in this case, what we've looked at is someone who immigrated from China, came here initially as an international student. In her terms, she's an accountant. She wants to get on well in work, and she wants to be able to explain in an exciting way the story behind the numbers. She went to an impromptu wedding she went to a wedding and was given the task of doing an impromptu speech. She hadn't prepared for it. Guess what? Table topics had helped her out there. So she got up and gave a table topic, longer than 2 minutes, speech for her cousin who was getting married. Her parents were there, and it was a huge smash. And her cousin was so proud of her, and so were her parents. Now, again, culturally, with the Asian culture and that family is very, very important, which is fabulous. And there's a lot of pride in taking on leadership roles and doing well and pleasing the family in that way. So we've been able to capture that succinctly in this little article. So we've been able to, just moving that away for a minute. I'll move on. So let's look at the next one then. 2 more that we've got here. Accelerating journey and making a difference. Now, this was a newsletter that we produced every month as part of my club when I was president.
Oh, wow. He does awesome newsletters.
Well, thank you very much for that. Now, here, the one on the left, we aimed this at professional, because landed a dream job. New heights Toastmasters was able to get to. We interviewed this person. Leadership was peppered in there. She became a senior public servant, what she was always after at a high level. And there's a picture there of her smiling away. Same here, making a difference. Now notice the titles we're using here. Secondment opportunity. She had to go through multiple interviews. The last one lasted for 3 hours. And she said she did a table topic basically for 3 hours on how to answer these questions. And she got the secondment in another state. Her mentoring skills that she'd learned at Toastmasters was going to help her with this job. And again, leadership. Professionals again. Here's a couple more. Steve here on the left, he's a landscape gardener. He's a non-professional from that point of view. He only came to Toastmasters because his son was having a 21st birthday and he wanted to do him proud. He wanted to make sure that he didn't embarrass the family when he was giving a speech. He wanted to make his family proud. But what happened is he really enjoyed it. And now he does it for the joy of speaking, not for career. He formed a strong bond with the club and he enjoys the company there. So he's a social seeker. On the other side here, Rostrom, well, he wasn't comfortable with public speaking. He wanted to be an entrepreneur. He's growing 2 small businesses and being a life coach, but he wanted to be able to think under pressure. Now, again, can you see how these are different segments of people that we also did some of these for the external community through the newspaper as well, where we took the words they were using and placed the connection to make it meaningful for an entrepreneur or for someone who is a social seeker. So now let's look at a 5-step meaningful marketing pyramid, as I call it. So these are 5 steps that you can do. 5 steps and then a secret hidden step, which is very important. So see if you can think what that secret step is. The first step is to identify who you are targeting. Who do you want to target? Now, you may look at your club and say, we have these people in our club. We need to get more of this type of people into our club. You may want to look at your club and say, we want a different type of people. We want to make it a bit more diverse. You might be in a local community, for instance, where there's a lot of professionals around or students around. In that case, it's easy to tap into because they're all around you. You just need to be able to talk in a meaningful way, connect to them inside, not just here, but connect to them emotionally as well. So who are you targeting? Second one is to understand them. Put their hat on and walk in their boots. You need to understand them. What do they want? And if you're not sure, ask the people in the club who are like them. If you don't have people like them or you're not sure, go out in the community and ask. My club had a stand for 2 shopping days and nights at a Westfield shopping centre. We saw thousands of people. We asked them lots of questions around this to understand the different types of people in our local community. So what do they want? Step 2. Now, step 3 is so important. Assess your club. Can you give it to them? If you are marketing in a meaningful way and you're saying, okay, our club can do this, this is how we've helped these people, blah, 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 you better be able to do it. Because those people are going to walk through the door with the idea that you're going to be able to solve the problem or issue that they've become aware of based on what you've said. If you can't deliver it, they're going to stand up at the end of the night and say, that was a great meeting. I really enjoyed it. It was so good. Yes. Oh, I'm definitely going to come back again. And like a puff of smoke, you're never going to see them again. Because they don't want to be nasty to you. They're not going to be nice. Some people will, but certainly 99.9% won't. You'll just never see them again. So can you give it to them? Make sure the quality of your club is up to the level to be able to entice these people when they walk through the door. They should be delighted when they walk through the door because they've just found a solution to the problem. They've discovered you and now they want to be delighted. Sign me up, and we move them into that next segment, the delighters. Then we connect. What's the message? So who are you targeting? What do they want? Can you give it to them? And then work on the message. What words they're using? What do you want to say to these people that connects to them logically, but also emotionally, using their language? And then finally, the reach. What's the media? What's the channel that you're going to use? Newspapers, notice boards, flyers in postbox, social media, a website. There's a whole range of things. I've just pulled out some simple ones there that you can use. And there's plenty of marketing materials that you can get from TI as well. But at this point, I will stress, whenever you do your marketing through whatever channels, make sure that it is connected to the brand. It must be consistent. We need to make sure the logo is correctly applied and all the correct colors in that way. Same as photographs. The Toastmasters brand has a certain voice and the way it portrays itself. Go on to the Toastmasters website. You should all know that, and look at the brand portal. It gives you a lot of downloads of marketing materials and pictures, and the brand manual itself will explain this. This is so important because when you've got a professional looking marketing look and it's consistent with the brand, you are making it so strong. It is so recognizable. And the stronger the brand is, the better it is for clubs and you as an individual, because it raises the profile and the professionalism of Toastmasters and the club, and hence you as a member. So please make sure you are connected to the Toastmasters brand at all times. And the final step, can anybody guess what the final step, that hidden step is? Can you have a guess?
Hit the green button.
Yeah, well, yes, now that we've done that, we've identified, we've understood the people, we've assessed whether we can give it to them. That's so important. We've connected with them. We know the message. Now we're reaching out to them. Okay, bang, we've pressed that button. It's gone out there. What do we need to do next?
Follow up.
Yeah, it's follow up in a way.
Call to action.
What we need to do, you're kind of right. What we need to do is review it. We need to monitor what we're doing, because sometimes we'll do it the first time and it mightn't work. We mightn't get such a great response. So we need to review that. Have we targeted the right people? Do we fully understand what they want? The message that we've put out there, was it the right message? Was it the right channel? Did we do a newspaper when we really should have done Twitter in some way because of students? And if you're not sure about these things, there's going to be plenty of workshops coming up in the future. And TI has got some information on this as well, about reaching out through different channels as well, to how to use social media in an effective way. But also, if they have come through the door and they didn't stay, they weren't interested, didn't sign up, why? Monitor that. So that hidden part is always the review. So important. So here's a message map that we can use. So this is a tool with some essential questions to answer. So what we're going to manage here is the message. What message are you going to use for that target group? What are the keywords? How are you going to achieve that consistency with the brand? What media or channel you're going to use? How are you going to manage that? How are you going to make sure you've got the things at the club in place to match your message? And who's going to take ownership of this to make sure it's happening? And then monitoring. Monitor the success of your marketing. Who will do that monitoring? And it may be a VPPR in this case. And how will you know if it's success? Every time somebody talks to you on a telephone or sends you an email or walks in through the door of your club, you should ask them very early on, how did you hear about us? Every time. And then you're getting information about where they are hearing about you, what that source is, what channel is working for you and what isn't. Drop the channels. You're wasting your time, effort, money. If you're spending any money on it, concentrate on those that are bringing the flow in. That's working for you. But be aware again, the different segments will have different channels of flow. A student, professional, and someone who's retired or a social seeker will probably have different channels. And then finally, the barriers. Will you drink the tea? This is always the question, because all what I've done now is all very good in theory. It makes sense. But will you drink the tea? T-E-A, tea. It takes time to do these things. It's easy just to throw a flyer and stick it out there and then not get much of a response and think, oh, yeah, the market's depressed at the moment. It's not working. My club is over 30 people at the moment. We went down and we come back up to 30. We try to cap it on 35, a couple of more people. We're going to have to start giving it to other clubs, which we've done in the past. We've split into 2 separate clubs because we had so many people coming to our club. So time, it takes time to think about another group of people and what they may want. Energy, takes energy and effort to do this. It doesn't happen by itself. Someone has to sit down and work on this. A club executive needs to put their heads together. And finally, you got to take action. Just like those people I said at the very beginning, we don't seem to be getting many guests through the door. Well, where are you advertising? Where are you promoting? Oh, well, we don't. Okay, problem solved. Start promoting, you'll start getting people through. start promoting in a meaningful way, you're going to get more people through. And if you can deliver, you will convert them into your members. So the takeaways here, all people are not the same. Just like movies. We all like movies, but we like different movies. Divide a large group into smaller groups. Use the segmentation profiling, the template that I showed you. I'm happy to share some of these things with you to get you started. You may want to modify that template a little bit more, make it more detailed in some way. And again, the profiles or the segmentation I showed you, both the Toastmasters International and the one we've done for our club, you may have different ones. They are not set that you have to use those particular ones because each club is different in a different location. Humanize your marketing. Always have it around somebody, a person, emotion. Do emotionization, as they call it, of it. Don't just have the logic because people will just turn off that, particularly during these times at the moment. People are looking for good news stories about people. And the 5-step meaningful marketing period. Do those 5 steps, but don't forget that 6th hidden step of reviewing to see what's working. And that message map as well will help you plan how to do meaningful marketing. And I'm going to stop sharing there. And if there's any, we've only got a few more minutes left. Is there any questions?
There are some questions. There are some questions, and I've been tracking them for you.
Thank you.
We have Megan from District 87, a Vice President membership. Is it possible to change a niche segmentation? Should people use what is status quo?
So when you're saying status quo, I'm assuming you mean changing who you've actually got in your club at the moment. If that's incorrect, let me know. It depends, again, what you want as a club. Now, my club over the years positions itself as a professional club. So we have a lot of people that come in as professionals, and we run a little bit more of a formal meeting. Now, it's not Renton rules exactly type thing or Robert's rules exactly, depending what you're using in your area of the world. But we are a little bit more formal. Our sister club that we split is more informal. Now, when we do our segmentation, we look at and marketing, we particularly look at professionals coming through. But the downside with professionals is that they tend to be a bit transient because they get busy with projects and things like this. And when something like the COVID comes through, a lot of them then have to concentrate on work and they may not renew their membership. So we then also pivot to look at some other groups. And at the moment, we have a lot of our area, new Australians that have come into the country. We've moved towards that. So it depends who you want in your club, more of the same, or if you want to add a little bit of diversity in some way and pivot. But you've always got to look, if we are looking at that particular segment, can we deliver? If we can deliver on the status quo, then maybe we should stick to our knitting, as they say, just stick to that. But if you want to be able to pivot to some other groups, are we able to deliver to what their needs would be?
Thank you. Denise Buckley, District 69 Club Growth Director. Who do you send your newsletter to?
So our newsletter went to all our members. So it was just an in-house one. I did share a little bit with our district leaders so they understood what we were doing. Our newsletter, again, and this is another presentation, but you have to realize that there's 2 markets you deal with in a club. You have the external market that you're promoting to bring people, attract people into the club and raise the awareness about Toastmasters, but there's also an internal market. And this is where we tend to forget sometimes, and this is where we have retention problems. So we may be able to attract people, and we always need to attract new people because every business, every organization needs new blood coming in all the time. But we also need to retain members. And that's where we need to understand there's an internal market that we need to keep on promoting to and servicing so that they stick around. We don't want to be the type of organization that as soon as they give us the money, that's it, we've got your money, now we're off to other people. We've got to keep that service on as well. So what we did is we had this newsletter where we promoted events, we promoted people. You probably saw their new members. We want to make them feel good for the start. There's a photograph, there's a little bit about you, so that when they were mingling during our social occasions, other members already knew a little bit about them. I could go up to them, hey, hi, Peter, I hear you do paragliding. That's great. You know, can you tell us a little bit about that? Does that connection. We also had some tips in there as well about how to do web public speaking, etc., etc. So that was one of the tools that we used during President. And because I have some skills around that, I was able to lay it out in a attractive and effective way to do that.
Thanks, Karl. Look, we have gone past the top of the hour. However, I do have one more question and I do want to wrap up the session as well. Pieter from Indigo Speakers, I think it was, Vice President Public Relations.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to the Kiwis. As you see, we're in the country, and one of the best methods of communication is face-to-face. And I don't think the responsibility for attracting new members should just be the executive, but it should be every member's responsibility. And what we say to people is, bring a friend, tell them how you have benefited from this, especially the Gen Y, whose first question is, what's in it for me? And we can tell you what's in it for you. You'll be able to do a job interview a lot better. And my point is that we need to have every member involved in attracting a friend. And we have a motto sometimes. We say, bring a friend at the next meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And fabulous point to talk about there. What is actually being mentioned there is a multiplier effect. So yes, this shouldn't just be up to the VPPR to do this, or the executive. Every member of a club should be doing this. And word of mouth is so powerful, coming from someone experiencing a product or service and talking about it and how good it is. Why do you think testimonials exist? You know, if you go to a lot of seminars or you buy products, you'll see testimonials. And you'll often get video ones of people talking. It's like word of mouth. I'm talking to you now via video about how great this is. So exactly as was mentioned there, this should be talked about at a club, and every member should be going out. You know, I don't always understand why members can't go to their workplace, and if they've got a community notice board, and you might have to check with your boss, put a flyer for Toastmasters up in your own common room in some way. I've gone around to all my libraries to put up flyers on what we do. And I wasn't even an executive of the club at that stage. So it's a good point. Everybody can help multiply this effect by doing that word of mouth. But again, try to educate them about making that conversation through word of mouth being meaningful to the person that they're talking about. You don't have to be a marketing expert. Just keep it simple. It's like at a party. You talk to somebody based on their interests. That's what you do when you socialize at a party. Oh, that's interesting. You start finding out about them, use their words about Toastmasters back to them.
Thank you, Karl. Did you want to wrap up and then hand back to me?
I can do that. Yes, absolutely. So look, thank you. We've got around about 105 looking there, probably 104 because I'm in twice. So we don't want to cheat there. Look, thank you for joining us, no matter where you are in your particular region. I'm very happy to have shared this with you today. I hope that has given you a little bit of insight. Kayleen, you can put up my email address there. I can tell you what it is. It's a simple one. It's Karl, K-A-R-L is the way I spell Karl. So it's Karl Toastmaster, one word, Karl Toastmaster at hotmail.com. So Karl Toastmaster at hotmail.com. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them to the best of my knowledge. I wish you all the best. Toastmasters is a fabulous organization. We need more people through our clubs to be able to change lives for those people, because so many people, particularly now, need Toastmasters more than ever. And particularly when I see the issues happening with communication around the world, even at top leaders, is so bad. We need people to come through. And the only way we are going to get them to come through and make our clubs vibrant is by connecting with people logically and emotionally and making sure it's meaningful for them. So please use that. I wish you the best of luck. And I'd love to hear about some of your good news stories about using these techniques.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Karl. Big round of applause for Karl. Yay! Thank you. In the chat box, I have put links to the brand portal that Karl mentioned, so you make sure that everything is brand compliant. Really good with your language, as Karl said, the tone, how we speak in our PR, as well as the logo and what you can and can't do. I've also put a link in there, and thank you, Carol, for reminding me. This is something I normally share with the PRMs. I put a link in there to answer the public. It's a fabulous link to put in keywords like public speaking or leadership or building confidence, things like that. And it will give you all the questions that are being asked on the internet. And it gives you great ideas on what you can put content and what people are thinking about. So that's there as well. I've also put in the link to the Toastmasters International Convention, because that's coming up in August, and it would be fabulous to see you there. I put the link in there for the annual business meeting as well, because I've started to get some questions about the proxies and what happens. The answers are there through the frequently asked questions link on that page. And I've also put the Region 12 Facebook group in the chat as well. If you're not already part of that group, please join that group. This is where we'll be promoting what upcoming events we have in Region 12, but it's also a great place for you to share your learnings and insights from this session, and also let us all know your successes going forward. So that would be a great place for Karl to be able to pop in and see what you've actually been doing as well. So what is coming up in Region 12? August, huge month. We will have a time management session that I am organising for about mid-August. Then there will be the Toastmasters International Convention, which is for everybody in the world. At the conclusion of the International Convention, there will be a Region 12 gathering, which all the members in Region 12 are invited to attend. In October, I am planning to have accredited speaker Cheryl Rausch come and do a session for all of you on solid gold marketing. This is really exciting opportunity for district PRMs and club VPMs and VPPRs, because she will like copies of your promotional materials sent to her, and she will look at incorporating that into the session so that we can get feedback on how to improve our material that we're putting out there. So stay tuned for that. The recording of this, the templates, and I think the slideshow will be made available through the district leaders. Karl and I will package that up after this and send it to district leaders, and they'll make it available to you all. But I would like to thank you for all being here. Jules, you can now turn off the recording